Moving towards skills doesn't mean moving away from roles.
All of that great organizational data and just giving you intelligence.
It is that foundational element.
Applications of skills and how you're even using skills today in the context of talent acquisition.
To understand how to map your employee aspirations, strengths, motivations to your roles, you're going to need a lot more information, but skills is that starting point.
Welcome to Phenom Skills Day. You are part of the human resource industry's first and only day dedicated to removing the hype of skills and truly understanding the practice of moving towards a skills-forward approach, towards hiring faster, developing better, retaining your talent longer. And doesn't that sound like a wonderful thing? Don't we all want to accomplish that? I'd say yes. We felt an obligation to host Skills Day. Our current and future customers expect it. Media influencers and analysts look towards Phenom to help define and communicate how to think about and apply the latest HR tech trends and innovations. We've done similar things for AI with our Phenom AI Day. So how should companies think about skills? What guidance should they consider? What to focus on or what to avoid? What are the pitfalls when thinking about skills? How does a company get started? What does an execution strategy look like? It's time to get into the who, what, when, where, and how of skills. Let's kick the day off with some inspiration from our co-founder and CEO, Mahi Bayereddy.
Hi everyone, welcome to Phenom Skills Day. This is amazing to see so many people who are interested about skills in general. Skills are right now super crucial for almost every enterprise, irrespective of which industry they belong to, which particular country they're really in, and what state of business they're in. Skills are super important at Phenom, and we have a lot of attention to it. And that's primarily because of our purpose. Our purpose is to help 1 billion people find the right work. To make sure people find the right work, they should be in the right place at the right time with the right skills. And that's what we constantly think about. Skills in the last 30 years were always really manually retained and used to be curated. And we used to use a lot of consultants to do that. And if you look at skills in the last couple of years, they moved into a different dimension because our data richness on skills have actually tremendously improved. The system of intelligence on every HR records has actually got a lot better than it ever used to be. The bigger problem what's going on in the market is there are co-pilots, there are robotics, which are coming after our jobs and our careers. And that's happening more rapidly than ever. And there is a lot of fear out of it. But we have a different problem across the globe right now, which is the demographic challenges which we have right now, especially with respect to the aging population and birth rates. With this, workforce is tighter in general for every particular industry and every particular country. There is a humongous gap getting built in this ecosystem. How can we really address the skill shortage across the world? To our thought process, the skills in the robotics are the new demographics which will help us. The technology is not a challenge, it's an opportunity to make digital workers much more productive. And these things can be super helpful in terms of how to shape the future. If you look at right now in the market, the most important element which we all have to really watch out is productivity of an employee pool. We can improve the productivity using technology at a different level. So with that, it really comes to what will happen to the future skill sets of all the employees and every talent across the globe. With the talent shortages and economic shifts, we constantly have to think about a good technology will make a humongous difference that we can offer to our talent pools, especially our employees, so that we can reduce the cost of the product for our customers who are the end users, and also make our employees more productive and fulfilled at what they're doing instead of doing the same type of jobs every time. HR has to move into the skill-focused enterprises. And that's why you all are here right now. We have to move into a leader than a lagger in terms of how we adopt technology in these areas. We constantly think about how do you really bring this technology and the talent in the forefront of skills. We think the whole organization as a tree of talent. A tree is of roots, trunk, branches, leaves, and fruits. The roots are the foundation of your organization, which is the people and the workforce, what you have, their talents, their knowledge, their individual skills, their abilities to do certain things, and their motivations, their purpose, and your company's purpose. The trunk reflects the culture and ethics of your organization, which is about your values, your behaviors, and your culture. And you can really think from this dimension of there are multiple layers within the trunk which you can really look at, which can make your company strong or weak. Then you have these branches which symbolizes the core structure of your organization, how this actually splits into. The organizational structure, the departmentalization, the locations you operate on, the categories you really belong to, all those things do matter. Now, the leaves is where the infrastructure, what we really think about is representing the elements of your workforce. What are the jobs they really do, what roles they work on, what competencies they have, and what skills they're really working on. When these are all things come together, that's when the fruits actually happen, which is what does your company's growth, your talent growth, your productivity as an organization, your people fulfillment for what they're really doing and aligning to their purpose. That's what delivers profitability in any given company. As the seasons changes, the leaves change their color, they drop off, and they actually rejuvenated again as smaller leaves, which will turn into the whole cycle. The same thing is happening to jobs, roles, competencies, and skills. The seasons here are how the technology is adopted, how the society is changing, how the economics are really making the whole equation of the world actually work. Those are the primary ways seasons actually structure in a business environment. And the skills are like leaves which are continuously evolving. So in the world of skills economy, there are many jobs going to go away and there are many new jobs going to be created. If you take in 1970s, 50% of the jobs existed at that point of time don't exist today. It's 5-0. Half of the jobs in 1970s don't exist today as jobs. And the job market is completely dynamic right now. There are jobs which are getting replaced, and Dell is actually focusing on, they're predicting about 85% of the jobs will be replaced by 2035. It happened before, it's happening again. Every particular 15 years or 20 years, you'll get a new technology or a new landscape which will dramatically change how skills, jobs, and what you really look at like competencies will change. And that change is practical and normal. Now, when it comes to productivity and human fulfillment, you have to think in 3 different dimensions: what human is good at, what automation is really good at, and what augmentation is good at. The human is good at is what we are really good at a unique perspectives, especially with respect to our creativity, our critical thinking, and also specifically about our soft skills and all that stuff. Whereas there are certain spots where you can augment with tools and technology. That's where you can get the maximum benefit. So the productivity of individual employee will really raise up. But you also can think over a period of time, the machines can really pick up, so you can really build the automation. That's what is happening in fulfillment centers. That's what is happening with co-pilots, with writing infrastructures and all that stuff. But you always have to think where humans are good at, what we can augment, and what we can automate. And when you really have that clear agenda about like what you want to do, and that is a continuous evolutionary process. For those things, previously we used to do manually. Every couple of years we used to address. Right now you cannot do that anymore. You have to use tools which can help you dynamically do these things in a hyper-personalized format so that you can automate things which can be automated. You can think about things where you can make it intelligent and much more affordable so that the whole equation of the talent ecosystem can get better. So that's where the evolution of work actually really comes into picture. You can really think about like, hey, what happened to the lift operators or phone operators who were there in 1970s? They don't exist today. And there is a reason for it, because they're not required. Automation can really work in these particular segments in a much more effective format. Okay, now if you want to build a skill-centered organization as a company, what are the most important things which you have to focus on? The most critical thing is you have to understand your own company's data in a much more authentic format. The data set what we used to have before compared to today is much more richer. Even the talent acquisition, recruiting, talent management, employee experience, on top of it, what you're really doing with what you call as performance management, the data has become a lot more richer. Now, the primary point what you have to think here is, how do you structure this data? We believe something called a skill cube. There are different dimensions in the cube which we really look at to build a skill ontology for every company and every enterprise. That's how we build for our own company, we build for our customers. So there are multiple dimensions in a cube. The first dimension what we really look at is, what are the work zones your company operate upon? Work zones are nothing but the lowest skills required to do a particular work to the highest skills required to do a particular work. We call work zones as zone 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The highest level of skills are in zone 4 and 5. The lowest level of skills required to perform a particular job is in 1 and 2. Within those work zones, we constantly look at what are your talent volumes, how many people you hire, how many employees you have in those particular work zones. So when you really look at, like, if you're a retail company, your zones for 1 and 2 are highest in terms of the volume you hire or the people who you employ. But that doesn't mean you don't have any people in zone 4 and 5. You still have people, but relatively it's a different number. But if you're a tech company or a healthcare company, your zone 4 and 5 is where your most of the hiring actually happens. But in general, you cover all of them, but you have peaks and valleys in terms of what you hire and what you don't. Based on that, you really go into the second dimension, which is about your demands and skills. Your supply demand varies based on which work zones you basically operate on and what talent volumes you have. So we call these things as skill clusters. These clusters are really giving you thought processes about like where your growth is and how your dimension 1, which is about like work zones and volumes, are really moving. Based on that, how your skills clusters are really constantly moving. Then you have a third dimension, which is about your functional organization and your organizational structure. The functional organization can be your job functions, or it can be your product functions, or it can be department functions, or anything of that nature. And your org structure is, how is the org actually structured? Based on that, the cube actually really brings together different dimensions into the equation, and that creates an ontology for that particular company. So where is your company operates? Where are you growing? What are the skills you need? What work zones you belong to? What talent volumes you have? What organizational structure you really work with? And what are the skill clusters you are really focused on? Based on that, the ontology is growing and shrinking, and it's very dynamic, and it's super personalized for every enterprise based on its need. Now, if you really take a particular area of focus within aerospace and defense, like engineering and project management, you can look at what job function, what zone, what role, what skills are required, and which are changing. And it should happen dynamically as the company progresses. The same thing happens for retail. In retail, you basically hire mostly zone 1 and 2. You also hire from zone 4 and some of the zone 5s, but the most important critical mass is zone 1 and 2. And based on that, how your skill clusters actually really shaped will really dramatically differ. In the tech industry, your zones are primarily oriented towards 3, 4, and 5. 4 is where your peak of your hiring actually happens. And your clusters are more towards the technology in the infrastructure and how do you optimize it. So we actually have really looked at every industry. And what we really found out is for each one, what we build as an enterprise talent graph is very, very critical. And the reason why we build this is primarily because to make the skills work for a skill-focused organization, there is a magic triangle of alignment. The magic triangle, in our opinion, is about how can you bring employees, HR, and the people managers and leaders together into the same ecosystem, work on the same set of data based on their requirements with their own experience, which is relevant to them, which is automated, but at the same time is very, very smart. And that's what Phenom actually delivers. We'll show the product in the next couple of segments of how this whole thing really works for you and how it can make a humongous difference. Instead of doing everything manually, there is a lot you can automate, a lot you can make it more intelligent, and you can deliver these experiences for every persona in a much more personalized format than ever. Thank you.
So why all the focus on skills? Well, from our first childhood memories, our parents taught us the value of building skills, to praise our successes and learn from our failures. Skills are the first tangible things we learn to help define our place in this world. So they become a common language in education and employment. Skills are well-defined, universal, and insightful. They're personalized for individuals and organizations. It unifies development, adaptation, motivation, and creativity. They're a big driver in learning, job matching, and career progression. They are predictable and credible. Since our founding 12 years ago, Phenom Skills technology has not only evolved, but has been refined through rigorous challenges and persistent innovation. This sometimes painful journey has endowed us with a profound expertise and invaluable insights that we put to work for our clients. Combine this collective experience with Phenom's people and technology, and together we can extract, organize, and label them, building a trustworthy skills foundation. Because we know skills are the currency of work. And currency is a relatable way to describe skills as they have similar attributes. Skills have a marketable value. We can accumulate them. They can be exchangeable and transferable between roles. We can invest in skills and they will appreciate over time. Skills are an indicator of professional health and is the essence of context and culture. Most importantly, skills provides a sense of personal agency. We start with skills because the depth of knowledge and connection we have to them is well established. But it will not end there. Most people are not hired on skills alone. There are so many other considerations we make, and some of them are our competencies and behaviors, our values and goals, our connection to culture, and even our attitude and aspirations. When we look at this bigger picture, all of these qualities make up our story. It gives us a sense of meaning and direction, where we are and where we want to go. People deserve to be looked at through this whole lens. We're ready to take this journey with you. Skills are our first step together, so let's begin.
All right, so now let's go back to the basics and talk about the foundations of skills. For any organization to be a skills-first organization, there are a certain set of steps that you need to take to get there. It starts with the basic step. Where do you get a skill catalog and how do you build this? Next is all about mapping. So you've built a baseline catalog. How do you really map this to everything in your enterprise is something to think about. Once you've mapped that and created your enterprise skill intelligence, you have to go and deploy it to all your users. And then based on the deployment and the usage of skills within your organization, you can come back and take concrete decisions based on this data. So if we think about skills, there's so much confusion about skills out there. You hear the term skill ontology, taxonomy, intelligence, skill clouds and predictions and databases. So what is the right thing for you? So what we attempt to do in this session is really clarify some of these aspects of skills and give you a perspective on how to look at skills. And when somebody is talking to you about skills, you can ask them the right questions on what level of granularity they're talking about. So if we go back to our foundation, what exactly is a skill? So we all know what a skill is, but from a data perspective, let's take a look at how it is represented. A skill is a basic, most granular element that could be a part of what we call as a skill cluster or a group or a skill domain, but it has basic aspects, right? It has a skill description, something that is going to represent what this skill is going to bring about in the workplace. A skill could have a type. It could be a hard skill, a soft skill. It could be a job specific skill. It could be associated with an industry, or it could have a specific correlation to certain job functions. So this is kind of the basic structure of the skill. So now the first step is to start building a catalog of all these skills with all the metadata to begin your process. So a simple skill catalog can look like this, right? So you have a top level skill group and certain clusters of skills underneath it, and then you can have all these skills that are out there. Depending on what type of skills you're talking about, what job functions you're talking about, there could be multiple layers of skills that could be a part of your overall catalog. And there could be correlation between skills that could be a part of your catalog too. So here's a quick example where talent management could have performance management and development related skills. Goal setting and data analysis could be a part of a core skill that's required for somebody who's a performance manager or deploying performance management tools. But you can also see correlations with learning analytics to data analysis coming in from the learning and development side. So with this basic catalog, you'll have to think about, okay, how do I build this catalog? Do I build something on my own? I basically get everybody in the company to participate and help me build this core skills framework or skills catalog, or do I use something that's pre-built, right? So one of the most important things that you have to consider during this phase of skill development is think about how exhaustive and how granular your skill ontology is, right? So you're building a catalog. Do you have skills that are way high up, or does it understand very granular skills that are organized into certain skill groups and clusters? The second important thing to consider is how often is this library being updated? So, and who is in your organization in charge of keeping this library updated, right? So if you're building this in-house, how do you take care of all these emerging skills that are out there? How do you add it to your catalog is something to think about. Typically, there are a lot of platforms out there that are offering skills. It could be your HCMs, your learning management platforms. It could be talent management platforms that are all offering some variation of skills catalog to you. So the collection of these skills and the correlation between the skills and the organization of skills is what typically is referred to as a skill ontology. So what we just spoke about is this core layer called the skill ontology, right? So that's essentially what you're looking at. So now the next step is, now that you have a catalog, you got to map all these skills to a lot of entities in your organization. So maybe you're taking this skill to determine what are the top skills associated with the role. You're trying to figure out employees in specific job functions, what type of skills they may have, and things like that. So this process can be a little bit more time consuming and exhaustive, right? So you have all the catalog and you have to now go in and map everything into this whole org structure, figure out where each skill goes, what departments and roles and titles get specific skills, and how does that differ from, let's say, your business units and your different geographies. So to do this exercise today, this is the standard process of building a mapping function. Typically, talent management meets with every department, identifies the key roles that are there in the department, identifies what are the top skills from the catalog that can be mapped to these key roles, identifies proficiency levels, competencies associated to these roles, and eventually come out with some sort of an architecture that's published to those managers in that department. And this process repeats for every single department. So what's the problem with this? This whole process is extremely time consuming and laborious. For an average 20,000 person company, this exercise can take close to 2 years. And based on our conversations with our customers, and prospects, this is the biggest mountain to climb. When people say that, hey, I have enabled skills in my ecosystem, most probably they're talking about just enabling a catalog. The process of taking this catalog and mapping it to your organization is where the majority of the challenge and the lift is today for most of our customers. And the biggest challenge with any sort of a manual approach is these architectures and these mappings can become obsolete very rapidly. And we've seen this with a lot of organizations who've done this exercise, but when it's time to really go and deploy skills, sometimes new skills come into the equation and your whole architecture becomes obsolete. So how do you go about building a skill ontology? There are three approaches. One, you can just build it in-house, just like how I showed you earlier. The second thing is there are certain consulting firms that you can engage who can help you build a skill ontology, either through certain best practices or looking at a small sample set of data within your organization. They can help predict what skills your roles could have. They can help predict probably what skills your employees could have and give you a little bit of a starting point to start your skills journey. Or alternatively, you can take a look at some of the emerging tech that's out there. So do you have a technology where you can look at not just a sample set of data to predict skills for your roles and employees, but can you look at actual deterministic data? It could be coming in from your TA practice, it could be coming in from your TM practice, your employees, your learning and development, your succession and things like that. Is there a tech that can combine all of this and give you a very solid starting point of this mapping? So in this phase, some of the key things that you have to consider is, are your business leaders committed from a time and resource perspective for this exercise, right? So it could be either building something in-house or using a firm or using technology. How much of time commitment is required from these teams is something to think about. The second thing to think about is how do you plan on constantly keeping up with new and emerging skills associated to your enterprise? It's easy to find out an emerging skill that's out there and add it to your catalog, but how do you take this new skill and map it to every single job function and job role within your enterprise? That can be hard. And finally, if you're using some sort of technology to do skill predictions, it's also important to consider, does this technology fully represent your entire organization, right? So if you're looking at a sample subset, maybe you don't have a complete coverage and a good source of truth. So now what we've looked at is the second layer. So from a catalog, now you have some sort of skill intelligence that really understands the correlation of skills, not only between the skills themselves, but in relation to other entities in your organization. And the next step really is, okay, you've built a pretty good catalog. Maybe it's already quite dynamic and it can learn, and there's a good way of updating your entire skill ontology. You have to think about what you need to do from a rollout perspective. So when you think about rolling out skills in your organization, you have to think about three personas, right? So one is to your own HR organization. Second is now your managers need to start adopting the skills, and third is your entire employees and the whole population should start to use these skills. So rolling out skills within your HR department typically is less of a problem based on what we've seen with our customer conversations. Rolling out skills on your job profiles so that all new open requisitions or new requisitions have those skills, yeah, you can actually get that done pretty quickly. Mapping skills to some of the learning initiatives that you have out there, yeah, absolutely, that can happen. And even rolling out a performance plan based on a skill-based approach can be accomplished, right? So those are some of the things that fall under the HR responsibility that can be accomplished once you have this framework built. The second hurdle to cross is really your managers, right? So you can quickly start to say that your interview questions can be focused around critical skills and experiences that are required for your jobs, and you can start to structure some of those things around skills. Even performance reviews, as I mentioned earlier, can also be designed so that managers are specifically providing feedback on certain skills. But where it becomes challenging is your employee career development, right? So when managers need to have these career conversations with their staff, it's a little bit challenging for them to visualize skills and skill gaps and have a meaningful conversation with employees. And similarly, succession planning, I think that's hard. Most managers really add people who they know into their succession plans, but not look at it from a holistic perspective, or looking at what other people have the right skills to join the team. And finally, rolling this out to your employees can be really, really hard. Having employees update their skill profile, making employees learn based on skill gaps, or having them set career paths, or become mentors, or pick up gigs, just to grow skills can become a bit of a challenge from a rollout perspective. So in this phase, what you have to consider is, how do I roll this out effectively? Sometimes organizations have built a framework, but they've not been able to roll it out. And when they look back at the data that they have about their employees, it's often old data. So they may have a framework, but they don't have employee data to really understand what the skill profile looks like. We've also seen employees have no time or motivation to go and fill out their profiles. They are not coming every week on a Monday and filling out their profiles to add new skills they've learned. And this could be a big challenge if the employees don't see value. And while all of this is happening and you're trying to shift towards a skill-first organization, employees are saying, I could have stayed longer if I had seen better career advancement opportunities within the company. Managers also have a big challenge with this. Managers are thinking, how do I use this very effectively? How do I take a look at some of the data that we have about our employees and the skill gaps and have meaningful conversations? How can I access that data very easily is a big question mark. So some of the things that you have to consider when rolling out your skills is, if you're rolling out a solution to your entire population, does it really depend on just your employees inputting skills for the whole platform to function? The second thing to think about is, how easy is your user experience, and are users going to find value out of what you're going to offer and then give you data back in exchange? So that's something to think about. And finally, how much support do you have from a change management perspective is important. So especially when you're rolling out skills, there's a certain level of expectation setting that needs to happen, and you need to look at any partner that can help you with the change management process. So to accomplish all of this end to end, in terms of not just building a skill intelligence layer, but also using the same skill intelligence layer to deliver an experience for your employees, your managers, and even your HR, you have to look at the third tier of solutions that's primarily focused around talent intelligence. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later today. And finally, you have to make decisions. So now that you've built a catalog, you've mapped it out to your roles, and you've deployed a product or an experience that can deliver certain engagement and development of skills in your organization, now your leaders and HR groups can start making meaningful decisions based on this data. So HR and leaders are looking for making decisions on emerging skill trends. They are looking at identifying skill gaps and whether they need to grow their existing employees with upskilling efforts, or borrow it from other places in the organization, or just go and hire. Workforce planning is an important decision that's happening just based on opinions and feedback, but not really based on data. Talent review process is another area where skills can play a pivotal role on how to really progress your employees on an accelerated path. Similarly, managers also have a lot of question marks when it comes to skills. So how do they grow and retain and upsell the right talent or right employees within the organization? How do they boost engagement of employees, creating an environment where employees can come in and learn and grow their skills for their brighter future? how do they plan succession, how do they hire better talent. Everything is served based on the data that's driven out of this core skills framework. And to make those decisions, you can't have just one layer. You have to have three. So you may still actually end up building a great skill intelligence layer, but if your users are not able to experience the value of this and be able to share their aspirations and interests and skills they've acquired, it'd be impossible to make meaningful decisions with just the first two layers. So with this as some of the key considerations throughout your entire journey building process and your transformation process to be a skills first company, let's take a look at where you can exactly start. Thank you.
So are skills part of your talent acquisition, growth, and retention processes today? Of course they are. The problem for most organizations isn't processes lacking skills. The processes that exist just happen to be siloed, and because of this, there's an overall lack of visibility, utility, and consistency. Although skills are everywhere, your organization is missing out on tremendous value if it doesn't have a well thought out strategy and supporting technology. So let's look at a few examples that illustrate how to ensure maximum consistency, visibility, and utility with skills. I'll start by illustrating where skills show up in the talent acquisition process, and then I'll hand it off to Lindsay, who will show the same on the talent management side. Let's begin with requisition creation. A manager has finally received budget approval for a new position, their team. Maybe they're finally getting that underwriter that they wanted, but they've never hired an underwriter before. So they have to create a job requisition from scratch, including the skills that will be needed from the underwriter that they plan to hire. Maybe they Google underwriter, or they ask ChatGPT for some help. But eventually they get a requisition over to the TA group. But what's missing here? Assistance to avoid gaps. For starters, what's the context of their organization or their department? How are they going to use that requisition to specify the needs of the recruiter so they can prioritize the right talent? How are they sure they've really covered everything they need? ChatGPT may be able to fill some of the blanks on a job description, but it's not a true AI solution for job management. The manager needs an assistant that understands his company, his team, and implicitly knows what skills are required versus the manager explicitly stating everything. Now let's move on to the intake meeting. At this point, a requisition's been raised. So the manager and a recruiter meet to get on the same page and set goals so that the recruitment process will run smoothly. In this meeting, the manager takes the time to outline what their expectations are. They go into further detail on the underwriter job profile that was broken down in the rec, including the skills that they think the underwriter is going to need to possess. Coming out of this meeting, the recruiter knows what the manager's wish list is, and they're going to try to determine what's possible within the salary range. All of this may seem okay on the surface, but there's a missed opportunity here to match ideal candidates. See, when the manager raised the requisition, they broke down a lot of information. Preferences, experience, title, location, qualifications, requirements, certs, skills. This is valuable context, and it's a missed opportunity for the recruiter and the manager to leverage this context to determine if there are ideal candidates that would be worthy of consideration that would be a match for what the manager is looking for. For example, there may be a silver medalist from a previous interview process that meets most of this criteria, and they could be shortlisted right away. At this stage of the game, candidates are beginning to apply for this underwriter position. So when candidates take the time to visit a career site, they're looking for opportunities. From the very start, they're looking for a job that's suited to their interests, their qualifications, their experience. Once they've found the job they're looking for, and in this case, the underwriter position, it's time to put their best foot forward by demonstrating what makes them the best possible candidate for consideration to stand out from the rest of the pack. And it's here where they specify how well their skills are aligned with the role. And because candidates know what the top skills are for the roles they're applying for, it's here where candidates go the extra mile to be very specific about what those skills are, so there's no way that their application can get overlooked. Okay, but what's missing here? It's the observation of skill trends. Unfortunately, this organization is failing to keep track of the overall set of skills that are being included in the resumes and applications for the candidates applying for the underwriter opening. Because of this, the manager is failing to capture visibility into trends, like the top skills that applicants are listing when they apply for a specific job. There's a missed opportunity to include this information in a revised job description or update the recruiter to look out for the talent that possesses these skills in addition to the others that they suggested, so they may potentially broaden their candidate pool. Now we're far enough into the process that we're starting to gather interview feedback. An interview with a high potential candidate for the underwriter role has recently taken place, so it's time to huddle with the interviewers and the recruiter to determine if they have the potential to receive an offer, or if they'll be moving in a different direction. The most important aspects of the conversation come to light, including the pros and cons, and ultimately a recommendation gets surfaced. Although we're moving through the right steps, we're not taking the right details into account. Because the company doesn't have a structured process or technology that's capturing interview feedback, important context and details are failing to get annotated. For example, there were certain behaviors exhibited by the last candidate that made them worthy of consideration compared to the others. And because this doesn't get documented or saved anywhere, the organization doesn't possess the ability to make these types of behaviors a requirement for the next underwriter position they're hiring for. Now let's get to the fun part. We're making hiring decisions and we're extending offers. At this point, the job's been posted for a few weeks. Several interviews have taken place. The hiring manager's taking the time to review the applicants and they're digesting all of the feedback and determining who's the best fit. Throughout this process, the hiring manager is paying very close attention to the skills possessed by those under consideration. And they're using this context to arrive at the decision on who gets the thumbs up and who gets the thumbs down. All sounds right on the surface, but we're not accounting for skill preferences. The manager is undertaking a thorough review of each applicant, and they're parsing each resume and comparing them side by side. They're weaving in interview feedback and trying to get to a final decision. Those that are making their way through this part of the process are standing out in ways that others aren't. And the problem is that the organization's failing to capture this very important information, the skill preferences that are standing out to the decision makers. They're also missing out on an opportunity to update the role profiles once an offer decision is made to help streamline future hires and inform internal teams that might consider this role in the future. All right, now I'm going to hand it off to Lindsay. I'm excited to share we now have an underwriter who's ready for next steps. We're going to share where the skills show up on the talent management side, everything from onboarding to growth to retention.
Thanks, John. I'll begin by outlining where skills get applied in the onboarding process. So at this point, the offer's been sent, the letter's been signed, and the hire has been made. And on day one, this new employee has done all the pre-work, filled out all the necessary paperwork, and they're ready to access all the HR systems for their day-to-day. So for each one, they create a profile, they add some information about themselves, maybe including past experience, hobbies, aspirations, and certifications. Once they've done that, system by system, then they're ready for their career at this company to officially begin. And so although this is a very standard process, there are two missed opportunities here. The first is that you already have learned so much about this employee before day one, back when they were a candidate. And so you should be able to create a baseline of information for them to make that onboarding process feel even more personalized. And the second is that there is even more information that they're going to or would like to share about themselves now that they're an employee, such as those goals or aspirations that they have with the future of the business, just as an example. But even if there is a place for that information to be provided, and often there's not, how could it be leveraged to supplement what you've already gathered about this person to date, not only to personalize their individual journey, but just as importantly, to curate an updated skill set for the next time you have to hire an underwriter? So now that that underwriter is through onboarding, it's time for learning and mentoring. So as your employees explore their careers, they'll likely look to expand their skill set in the role that they're in today, so that they can either excel at that position or think about getting ready to advance their career forward. Now, upskilling can come in the form of online courses from your LMS or possibly working with a mentor, someone who already has the skills that they possess, in order to apply those new skills practically in stretch assignments. This coursework and mentorship information then become a really important part of the employee's journey. Now, this is great for the underwriter, but it just so happens that you're leaving some opportunities for great information on the table. For example, how do these new skills become a part of that employee's story as an underwriter? And how does the next employee know which courses they should be taking to excel in the same way in the same role? Or even better, how do other employees then learn from this and understand their skills gaps about what's required to become an excellent underwriter at the organization? So not all skills come from employee resumes or managers' input. So let's take a look at skills at work. There are systems of work that employees use every day that capture valuable information about their performance, projects they're working on, sprints they've conducted, or content that they've created. Software like this, including Jira or HighSpot, can be mined to find relevant skills that employees may have forgotten to include on their profile or note when it comes time for their performance review. So this means that they lack the ability to make automated updates to a holistic employee profile or skill to role mappings. So this manual effort to mine these systems is nearly impossible. So it really requires AI's ability to measure skill relationships and how those skills become relevant to corresponding job titles. So now let's dive into performance and succession planning. Performance time is also typically known as the time to update your profile time for most employees, right? And this is when they do their best to go back through the last few months or even the last year in order to identify areas where they excelled, including those projects, those sprints, or that content that they've curated. Then succession planning may be woven into this process to identify high performers with great potential within the business. Managers start to critically evaluate those top skills needed for succession, but they're only able to see a very limited view of their team. They may not within that be able to uncover the most viable candidate. So instead, it should be feeding back into the skill and role architecture. So what does this mean? It means that relevant and meaningful skills are typically lost during a 1-to-1, a 9-box, or a year-end review. The succession planning process also lacks guidance from managers on what makes a good succession profile and where that person may already sit within the organization. It also is unable to surface any meaningful pipeline of the manager's critical evaluation of skills back into the role profile. So these systems simply don't talk to each other. Skills also have a significant part to play when it comes to internal mobility. So when there's a need for a job to be filled and that request is made, the recruiter posts it to the employee portal with the ultimate goal of finding somebody internal to fill that position. Now, upon review of these profiles, it will show the culmination of the activities that have taken place since the employee's onboarding, but only based on the information that they have provided, typically as part of their employee profile. So often what is missing in that are the skills that they have developed by the projects that they've completed, the online courses they've taken, and the conversations that they may have had with mentorships who already possess that. So then what's really missing here is a comprehensive skills profile that truly represents that internal candidate's ability to succeed in the new role. This also means that any new skills brought to the table by an internal hire are also missing given the next time that that role may be open and up for consideration. Even worse, they may think that a great internal candidate doesn't exist and instead accept an underqualified external candidate versus promoting a better fit internally. So by now, you can see that skills are in so many places in your organization for any given role. And this issue is compounded across all of the roles in the department and all of the departments in the organization, not to mention all of the different tools and technologies that are being leveraged where these skills exist, but those technologies do not talk to one another. The critical piece that is missing here then is the connective tissue, the holistic system that is taking all of these really meaningful inputs and using them to build a comprehensive skilled role architecture, and then using that architecture to drive the best recommendations for candidates, for recruiters, for employees, and for managers. And we're not talking just about a centralized resource, but instead a system backed by intelligence to surface the most comprehensive story for each individual in an actionable and meaningful way. And so how do you make those connections? How do you make sure the valuable inputs in various systems aren't lost? Let's find out.
Hey, thanks, John and Lindsay, for taking us through skills and talent management. Hello, everyone. I'm Sean O'Donnell. I'm the Director of Product for the EX Employee Experience, for those of you who don't know, for the EX team here. And what I'm going to do with my section is talk to you about how do we connect everything underneath the hood? How's it really work? So you've heard about intelligence for talent management, and it's connecting employees and managers and talent managers with the data and the context that you have. Obviously, that result is we're delivering this real-time intelligence that helps your organization. But how does that really work? It's sort of nebulous to a lot of people, and it could be scary, but it's really not. It's really a straightforward approach that I'm going to talk to you today about. So much like layers of a cake, that's how we build our AI, our ontology, and ultimately wind up with your personalized version of it. It's going to be 5 steps that I'll take you through, starting with step 1, which is what comes out of the box. 2, 3, and 4 we'll talk about. And then finally, that grand state of your ontology, your AI that you built through all your interactions and all the things we learned from your data. So talking about that out-of-the-box experience, well, what you're drawing on is our near 15 years in this industry, learning how skills, titles, locations, context, industries, how all of that ties together across the entire spectrum of HR work. Then what we do is we develop processes for injecting your data and learning all of that same relationship with your data. But out of the box, you're taking our relationships that we've acquired through a massive data set, 1.1 billion candidates, 450 million jobs, almost 1,000 categories, and 1.2 million companies of public data help us build this skills architecture, and you get it right out of the box. So this is the step 1. You're not starting from scratch. We don't have to learn anything. We already come to the table almost 70% of the way there to knowing exactly what you want to do. And from there, we will build up. So when you come out of the box, you may have 3 different roles that we know about. Let's take one, for example. Say it's a director of IT role. So we come out of the box and we know some things about your organization, but we want to enrich it with your data. And how do we do that? Well, it's not a simple process for us, but it is a simple process for your organization. As we move into step 2 of the cake here, we're trying to identify and add the context from your organization. So we're going to ingest your data, and we're going to learn what are the things in your industry and your marketplace that are your demands. What are your employee career paths? What are your company's sponsored career paths versus what an employee has actually done? These are the things in step 2 that we're pulling into our system and we're applying our intelligence to. So we're really here adding your context. We identify all of the available data sources. We investigate where we can integrate with that, and then we create mappings. The same way we did for that massive data set in the out-of-the-box version, we are doing now in your version in step 2. We start to ingest that. So it could be things like competencies, employee data, learning material, all of this coming into us. And then we have to learn to work with it. And that's where we get into step 3, your data and our AI. It's not as simple as just connecting to it. Now we need to ingest it, format it, and put it into a way that we can understand it in our machines. So the first step is we import the roles, the skills, the employees, the competencies, all from your data set. Then we normalize it. This is standardization. So, do you refer to a location the same way we refer to a location? Do you refer to a skill the same way we do? Is there slight differences that we have to account for? Let's normalize that, standardize it, and start feeding it into the machines. Next, what we're doing is figuring out the proximity and the relationships of these skills, these titles, these locations, these industries, this context that you have. So we do that for everything. We do it for proficiencies. We do it for roles, as I mentioned, and the skills. We try to understand how these things relate to each other in your realm versus what we came to you with out of the box. Then we group them together. This is step 3.4 here. We just group them together and we learn how to use those groups functionally for you. So what does that look like? Well, the output is very similar to a personalized format. So you have a director of IT position, which we knew that all of the director IT positions look like. But now we have this sourced from your data what your director of IT position may look like. And that may be very different. I'll give you a prime example of that. Product managers or project managers in software are not the same thing as project managers in construction. You have to know that context, and they bring a completely different set of skills. That's the out of the box. And then a project manager for one construction company who does bridges may be very different from another project manager who does buildings. So these are the things that we learn from your data. And that's all in the step 3, taking your data and bringing it to our AI. Next, we have step 4. That's the collective validation. We don't assume we're right. We know we get pretty close, but this is where you get to validate it for us. So we make it available to you, whether it be in the ERM or the internal mobility, anywhere in that EX ecosystem. And if you see something that needs correction, give it a little nudge, give it a little tweak, and everything below that will update. Your roles, your skills, your ontology, all updated in parallel because we're doing this collective validation. And you can see that here in this step 4 output. This director of IT in step 2 is changing from step 2 to step 3, and now from 3 to 4 because we have this input from you, the company. So you can see in this example, the job description may not be correct for that skill. So we'll eliminate that. Or maybe you think of networking different than the way our AI does. Or maybe you agree with it and you say, oh, I never thought of networking that way. This is the validation, positive and negative, that all happens in step 4 and really grows you to that step 5. And what's step 5? Step 5 is where we continuously learn and continuously update your AI. Beyond step 3, it's no longer our AI. Yes, it's our machines, it's our models, but it's your data and it becomes your AI and it continuously changes with your organization. So what may be a skill one year may not be a skill the next year. This is all that human in the loop feedback that we get that is a constant ongoing process. If you all remember the Six Sigma version of thought and business processes, continuous learning is all throughout that. And that's what we're doing here. So you can see here in the output of step 5, that director of IT position continues to morph. It has a little bit from the out of the box. It has a little bit from your data with the job description. A current employee may have given you a new skill that you never knew before. Usually comes in the form of an acronym, but they're always coming. And we're moving on and moving forward. And not the least of which is our AI and our base data is also learning. We're constantly grabbing new data sources to learn new things, and we're pushing it out to you. And that's the advantage of being with Phenom. So at the end of the day, you've built your ontology, this 5-layer cake that started out of the box, pulled in your content, matched it with our brains, then we validated it together, and we keep doing that for all of eternity in that continuous learning. No organization will stay the same over the next 10 years, and neither should your ontology. So with that, I'm going to throw it over to my good friend Jesus, who works on our team. He's going to take you into the product so you can see this at work. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Sean, and thank you everyone for attending Skills Day with us. Now, as you've seen across all different speakers today, there's a number of different ways that we take from an approach perspective to really create an ontology for each and every customer and every prospect that's dynamic in nature. Now, let's take a look at this in actual practice. Let's take a look at what this looks like in the tool itself. Now, I'm showing here our ERM application. And where I really want to focus on is really the roles catalog. Now, the way we ingest your data comes from your ATS, from your HCMs. It could come from multiple sources. And this also includes your positions. We're going to take all of that data to create a roles catalog in Phenom. And what that's going to give you is a breakdown of all your roles, their association to employees, their association from a job family, department, career track, levels, etc. And this really helps us paint the picture of your organization. But let's take a deeper look at a role. Let's jump into product manager here real quick. Now, I'm looking at the role itself, and I'm already seeing information about the role description. I'm seeing additional role attributes here on the right-hand side. And this is extremely important because when we start thinking about how we extract and generate skills for this role, all of these parameters will come into play. Now, let's focus more specifically on skills. Let's take a look at the skills required for this role. Now, I already have a number of skills that have been generated for me and are ready for me to validate. Some of these skills are coming from sources such as the job. Some of them may be coming from Phenom's AI. But ultimately, what we're seeing here is I now have full visibility into the ideal skills profile for this role. Looking at each individual skill, you'll see a couple of different parameters that are very important for us. The skill name, of course, the importance of a skill, the proficiency of a skill, the source. This indicates to us where those skills are being identified from, whether it's your job description, whether it's you as an organization bringing those skills over, whether that's from a Skills Cloud source, a third-party source. We'll be able to really break that source down here for you to report on. But hey, let's be honest with ourselves. Agile methodology, this is a skill I want for my product managers, but is it really required? Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just preferred. I can quickly adjust that directly in here. Maybe the proficiency level is too high up. You're an individual contributor. Maybe you're not necessarily solely focused on this skill. I want to change the proficiency level. Maybe I want to make it, you just have to be proficient. Just like that, I've been able to alter this skill from an importance requirement and from a proficiency requirement. Now let's take a look at another skill. Leadership development. Yeah, you're a product manager. Maybe you don't necessarily need leadership type skills. Maybe I want to delete this skill just in general. Just with a simple click of a button, I'm able to actually interact with that ontology and that proficiency level. Now, I'm seeing all my skills. I have 39 of them. I just got rid of one. I just adjusted another one, but there's this skill that I really want my product managers to have. And for whatever reason, that is Salesforce. Let me go ahead and add that skill. I can quickly jump in here, start searching, and I see a number of opportunities for me to add into my ideal skills profile. In this case, maybe Salesforce isn't it. Maybe it's actually SaaS sales. Let me go ahead and select this skill. Now, off the bat, you'll see that I can add that skill. I can adjust the importance level. Let's make it optional. And I can adjust the proficiency level. Let's make it intermediate. Now, with just a click of a button, I can add that, and it's an automatic skill that's going to get added to my role. Now, all I have to do is just publish those skills out. And with a simple click, I've now been able to manage the AI-driven ontology. I've now been able to take my own data, merge it with Phenom's out-of-the-box solution, and I've also now been able to actually adjust and interact with the ontology. So now the skills have updated. You'll see the source of those skills are also updated. And you'll see the proficiency and required levels have also been updated. Now, we don't just stop there, of course. This is extremely important for us, but organizations are also leveraging competencies. You can do the same thing directly from in here. You can look at your competencies, the titles, the levels, employees that are associated to it, and even descriptions associated to those competencies. You can also manage that the same way that you just manage skills. And why this all matters is because ultimately, knowing your roles, knowing your employees, and knowing your skills are going to help us really generate progressions for you. So let's take a look at the progressions that we've already generated for product manager. Looks like I got 3 possible progressions rated from best to the least likely. You'll see a number of sources here, including historical potential moves, but really more importantly, thinking about skills, you'll now start seeing skills overlap, skills and/or competency overlap. This really gives us the opportunity to really look at roles from a skill perspective, generate career progressions from a skill perspective, and also give you the tools to interact with the ontology. Again, just because we've generated these progressions based on information we know about your organization and your context, doesn't always necessarily mean that that's the end of it. Maybe you want to create your own progressions. Hey, I see 3 progressions here. Maybe there's something else that I want to promote. For example, maybe I want product managers to be recommended a product marketing role. I can actually start interacting with this. So let's take a look at product marketing as an example. Hey, product marketing manager, I think this is the right role. I want to start promoting that into my recommendations. So let me go ahead and select this, and I'll go ahead and add that. And just like that, we have a new progression that can be made available to your employees. And same concept, we're going to be able to really look at the skills overlap. But it doesn't just stop there, right? Maybe we have some generated progressions here. Senior product manager, lead product manager, principal product manager. Maybe one of these just doesn't make sense. Maybe that's the senior product manager because it's the lowest fit. I can actually jump right into this, select this role, and start blocking it. Now you're already seeing with this senior product manager that I've already prioritized this role. I can actually deprioritize it if I want. Maybe I want to start prioritizing this product marketing manager role that I just added. Let's go ahead and do that. Now off the bat, you'll see that I've been able to change the priority of a role. I've been able to create my own progressions. But what if I don't want a progression? Senior product manager. Let's go ahead and block it. Just with a simple click of a button, I'm blocking that progression and now it's no longer available for my employees. And this is all feedback loops that we take to really identify progressions, skills, competencies, employees, and organizational insights. Now, of course, it doesn't just stop there. You'll notice off the bat that by default, knowing your roles, knowing your requisitions and your data and your context has given us insights to detect critical skills. Off the bat for this role, maybe there's a marketing skill that's been curated as a critical skill. We also know that this is a hard to fill role. Maybe it takes us days, maybe weeks, maybe months to hire externally. So we know that this is a difficult role to fill. How can I start planning or focusing my future attacks on this role? And just like that, we've been able to create a roles catalog using your context, using Phenom's own ontology. We've been able to generate skills for that role. We've been able to just annotate those skills, annotate those progressions, annotate those competencies. This really gives you a full-fledged view from start to finish of how we're actually leveraging Phenom's ontology. Now, of course, some customers might have hundreds of roles. You don't necessarily have to annotate every single role. Start annotating those that are deemed critical roles, maybe those that are hard to fill. Maybe annotate those where there's less confidence of progressions happening or skills happening. These are all just use cases that we're about to explore. So coming up next, I want to kick it off to some of our other presenters who are going to show you some real life use cases of how we're taking what you just saw, how we're generating skills, and how we think about skills in Phenom into real world examples. So with that in mind, thank you all for joining us today. Hopefully this has been insightful, and I'll kick it off to our next presenter.
Hello, my name is Ryan Tooker. I'm a Senior Director of Solutions Consulting with Phenom. And what I'm about to take you through is what it looks like for a high-performing employee to engage with a personalized marketplace that's powered by skills and also recommendations. Now, along the way, you're also going to see how an employee can grow and build their career with the organization that they love rather than looking externally. Now, it all starts with me, that high-performing employee, receiving an email directly into my inbox. Now, this email is sent for the request for me to be able to validate the skill or skills from a coworker of mine by the name of John Deal. Now, all I have to do is click in, and it drops me right into the technology where I have the opportunity to take action, review the skills that John Deal has requested that I validate, and then I can move on. Now, when I do move on, I realize that I too have a whole profile that's nearly complete. I really like that because it means that I don't have to rekey in information that I've already done in other systems like a human capital management system. Now, I also start to poke around a bit and see that there's a number of skills that have already been organized for me. I really like this because it gives me a place to start. But I do notice that there's a couple of skills that I'd either like to add, edit, update, or delete. Now, I want to add a couple of skills that I think will really position me for the future of work and the job that I like to get in the future. And so really quickly, I noticed that I can add skills. It's not just me guessing which skill I should kind of add. It's making suggestions every step of the way that really guide me and say, hey, if you have these particular skills, there's also some suggested skills through skills adjacencies that could be really great for you to add. So I take advantage of that by adding a skill. And now I think, well, just like John Deal wanted to get some feedback from me as a peer, I'd like to do the same. So I head up to the ability to confirm skills. And the first thing that I do is I want to make sure that I'm getting those skills validated and confirmed by my direct report, Maggie Allen. Now, along with that, I also want to send Maggie a bit of a thank you, maybe a message. She's been really pivotal in kind of promoting me internally. And so I'd like to thank her for that, and then go through and start to select some of the skills that I really like her to concentrate on for me specifically. And I'll send that request. As I navigate to the home, I'm seeing that there's now a personalized experience and a personalized recommendations that are coming to me specifically. It's offering me the opportunity based off of all of those skills, those work experiences, everything that I've done up until this point, as well as things like my tenure. It's giving me recommendations of what I can do in the system. One of those things is to become a mentor and start a mentee relationship. Now, I really like that idea because I am, someone who's been a leader in the organization. And this really gives me the time to build my mentor profile and not just express some of the skills that I possess that I might be able to transfer or share with other folks and employees of the organization. But it's also my opportunity to share what I really want to get out of being a mentor and starting a mentor relationship, some of the things that I value personally and some of the hobbies and interests that I may have as well, so I can align to maybe some employees I haven't talked to in the past. Now, once I fill that out, I realize that, hey, now folks have already started to request a mentee-mentor relationship from me. That same employee, John Deal, is saying, hey, I'd like to start that with you, and I can accept that and move forward. Now, what's exciting is as we start to move and as we start to meet on a regular cadence, John and I and Tara and I are starting these relationships, and I'm learning a lot along the way. That's yet another opportunity for me to come in and be able to express the skills and add those skills, and then get the validation or verification from my leader or from a peer that, hey, yes, in fact, I have been learning those skills through that mentorship opportunity. Now, let's fast forward just a bit. Let's say in a couple of years from now, my personalized recommendations now have changed as I grow and evolve throughout the organization. Now I've been with the company for, let's say, a couple of years. I have a number of mentoring, mentee opportunities that I've done and completed. I've added skills throughout my journey. And now I'm being given the opportunity to create my own career path. Now, by creating my own career path, I can build it right in front of my eyes. So from my current role as, let's say, a sales development representative, it's offering me the capability to see where I may have the best fit or a potential fit. It's also highlighting things like, is this a sideways move? Is this something that would be an upward move? So it's not just climbing the corporate ladder. It's truly taking into consideration who I am as an employee, all the skills, years of experience, past experiences, all of that hard work that I've done through gaining skills. It's now putting that into practice and really developing a customized career path for me specifically. Now, if I want to say, hey, perhaps this is the best opportunity for me, not only does it say, okay, it also expresses the skills and competencies that I currently have that would make it favorable for me to obtain this opportunity, but also identifies area of opportunity from a skills gap perspective. So I can select this role as part of my first step, and then I'm offered additional steps really to craft this career path in full so I can stay with the company that I love. So now I'm going to go ahead and select a major account executive. I can see that that same skills and skills gap analysis is happening here. And now I can activate this opportunity. You can see that the technology actually thinks about what's happening in front of me and then provides that path for me. Not only does it provide the path for me, but as I can see, it's also right in line, making recommendation for relevant LMS learning management coursework that can help me round out some of the skills and fill those skills gaps that I had that would position me in a much more favorable position for that next role that I outlined on my career path. You can see here the different types of skills that I could be obtaining and be prompted to automatically upload to the system to put me in that really favorable position. So with all of that work now done, I head back to the home screen and I realize the job that's been sitting in my job cart and the opportunity that I've really been striving to get is within grasp. Now that I have obtained all of these new skills, I've gone through and learned a lot from mentors. I've gotten those skills validated. I've identified a career path, and I've even taken LMS coursework to position myself well. So I hit the apply button, I get the job, and I am super excited that I can stay with the organization that I love, and I don't have to look elsewhere. For me, life is absolutely awesome.
Hi, I'm Maggie Allen, and in today's use case, we're going to talk through some changes in my business strategy. My company has bank tellers in locations that have really low foot traffic, so we'd like to see if these tellers can move into a more revenue-generating roles, like a financial advisor role. Now, I'm logged into the ERM as an HR business partner. Before I move into who these bank tellers are and identifying them, let's first launch a campaign to see if any of these current employees, by geo and by additional filters, have any updates that they'd like to make to their profile. Now, they can go ahead and log in and create and add any skills that they'd like to with a simple campaign like this. However, we do know sometimes employees don't make those profiles. So we can actually have a call to action to some managers to see if they want to endorse employees to get the more up-to-date look on their total profiles. So we'll go ahead and launch that too. Now, after a week or so, I can actually log back in and start filtering out who my top performers are for those bank teller roles. When I do that here, I'm adding in things like top performers and consistent top performers to take a look at who they are. Let's find Rachel. So Rachel, I can see a total overview of her, but I can also see she's been in the role a long time and she's been a consistent top performer. Now, I can see that full overview. I can see her full growth too. So she has learned skills since she's been to my organization. She's completed gigs. She's actually a mentor. Now, if I move her, where would she go and what would be the best fit for her? This can help me along the way. But let's take Rachel along with 80 others in this search and move them into a high potential talent pool for this role. Now I'm going to take all of that group and also add them in to become a high successor for the role of financial advisor. Simply doing that can get this really organized for my future use. Before I get there though, we have a whole nother group of people that we can talk about. People who have high aspirations and are 100% engaged with my organization. So let's do some filters and take a look at Caleb, for example. He's engaged with the organization. He's maybe not my top performer, but he has full aspirations to develop at my organization. So I can add him to be a part of a developmental plan for current bank tellers and add him to that talent pool. Finally, I can track down a non-engaged employees who are also not the top performers at the organization. So no Caleb's, no Rachel's in this experience, and actually target who those people are so I can make sure that I don't necessarily add them into that list for those financial advisor roles. Lastly, it's time for a talent review process. So let's actually put all that information to use. So I'm sitting with my head of finance and we are taking a look at those successors for the financial advisor role. So some managers can always set who those successors are, and those are the ones we know of, but we have a lot more people who can be added, like some of those talent pools that we just created. So now I can lock those people in, currently say these are the people that would be a great fit for those financial advisor roles based on those talent pools, and now I'm ready. So thankfully, we are fully prepared for next steps and changes for my business strategy. My company has successfully identified bank tellers in those locations with low foot traffic and added them to a financial advisor succession plan. We are ready for next steps. Thanks for joining.
Hello, I hope you're enjoying Skills Day so far. My name is John Deal, and I am here to show you another real-world use case example where an energy company is shifting from a traditional energy to a sustainable energy strategy, and they need to upskill a portion of their workforce. So I'm going to show you how an HR business partner can go in, look at skills, the gaps that exist, and where they need to target certain teams for upskilling. And then I'm going to show you how a manager can personalize those development plans for the members of their team. Okay, so here I am in the employee relationship management tool, and this is my HR business partner view. I've landed on my dashboard here where I can see some relevant information. And my first activity here is going to be to filter down to my department that I'm very interested in, which is the Energy Policy and Management Department. This is the department where I need to check if we have relevant skills to support our sustainable energy strategy. So I'm going to scroll down past all this beautiful information in my dashboard and get to my skills graphs. And you can see here that there are a few skills gaps in the organization, specifically in this department. And the biggest one is carbon footprint. So I want to go in and see some of the details there. So I have some information here on the skill dashboard that tell me how many folks in the organization have this skill, how many have it as a skills gap, which is important to know. And what I really want to find out here is whether people are participating in any of the learning activities to try and upskill and add this to their repertoire. And when I go in here, guess what? They're not. Total of 45 hours being spent on learning activities for this given skill, which is not going to help me sustain anything. So let me see if I can kick off an initiative to try and challenge the managers of this team to have their employees upskill. So I'm going to go in here and start this initiative. A couple different options I have. This is an upskilling initiative. I'm going to go in and choose the teams that are going to be included in this initiative, and I can come in here and personalize the message for the folks that are going to receive it so they understand what we're trying to accomplish. I can go to the next step and I can make sure that the skills and or competencies that I want included as part of this initiative are here, add them as necessary. Guess what? The AI will make recommendations as needed. And then I can come in here and add the learning material that I want to add. So there's a couple different options for upskilling that are available. So there's courses from the LMS or LXM or third-party content providers like Udemy. So I can choose the relevant courses. I can also identify mentors in the organization that have the necessary skill or skills and add them to this upskilling initiative as well. And also there are projects that are currently in flight in the company that potentially people could be added to and they could learn this skill as well. So projects, which we call gigs, mentors, and online learning. All of these are options for the initiative. I make my final selections, I review everything, and then I kick it off. And now I have a dashboard here that's going to help me track progress. So I can come back here and make sure that everything is moving forward and everything is progressing very nicely. So now let's see what a manager would see. So here I am in my team manager view, and I have a lot of information right in front of me on my dashboard about my team. And I noticed that I got a reminder about this new upskilling initiative. So this has been assigned to my team, and I need to go in and figure out how I can personalize it for each of the team members to make sure that we can maximize engagement. So I am going to click on Hannah, and I'm going to look down at the details of this initiative, see where she is right now, looks like intermediate proficiency, see where she needs to get to, and then make some selections as far as what should be added to this and assign it out to her. Now I can go in for my one-on-one planning and add this to the agenda to make sure that we talk through this initiative and make sure she's comfortable with what I've added and what she needs to do. And then coming out of the one-on-one, I can easily add some notes that were brought up to make sure that I capture her feedback and any action items for me that I have to go through and do. From there, I can really track Hannah's progress. So right on her employee profile, I can see the courses that she's completed, how she's doing from a hours perspective when it comes to learning, and then where she sits on the skill curve. And as my team members make progress, I will be notified, and once they complete a learning activity, I can go in and endorse them for a given skill. I can also track initiatives at the team level. So I can come in here and really see what's going on across the team, see how much progress they're making, where people have started, where people have finished, where people have maybe not even started, and I need to get them going. And just all in one view, it makes it very easy to push things forward. And I can also look at this from a skills perspective. So with my team, what's the breakup of skills that they have at the right or above the right level, things that were partially acquired and things that are missing. And it's very easy for me to go down into the individual skills and visually see who's got what going on and who doesn't, and who needs to be upskilled in general, and also related to the initiative that we've kicked off. So progress can be made towards that from a team level. And then back in the world of the HR business partner, I can come in here and see how people are progressing overall in the initiative. 12 weeks, we're making some good progress, and we can keep pushing things forward. And if we don't see the progress being made that we want to, we can add some additional communications to the initiative to make sure that managers are aware and the associate employees are aware that the deadline is soon and we want to keep going. And so that is an example of how you can take a portion of your organization, create a personalized development plan for them, engage their managers in pushing things forward, and making sure that everything flows back into the employee profile, the team profile, and the organizational profile to close that skills gap. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline Riccardi, and in today's use case, we're going to focus on futuristic hiring. Now, that might sound like we're going to talk about flying cars or something like that, but today we're going to be focusing on the hiring that we'll do in the future by utilizing Phenom's technology and how it can help your teams to hire for some future skills that might not exist today. We'll focus on 3 key roles within your organization that all work together as a team to help in that futuristic hiring. We'll first start with your HR business partners and the part that they'll play within this ecosystem. Secondarily, we'll talk about your recruiters and how they can help out. And lastly, your employees and how these 3 areas of your business can really help with futuristic hiring. We know that there are a couple issues right now with futuristic hiring. The first is the need for critical skills currently within your organization. The second is the fact that upskilling to those critical skills takes time and effort. And the third is, now that we've gotten those 2 down and we know where we need to be, how do we actually tackle who the best person is to hire? And we'll take you through all 3 of those issues as we talk about futuristic hiring today. Starting first with that HR business partner. As an HRBP, I've just received a request to open a new job. My first step with using Phenom is to go into my ERM and start to view my current employees that exist within that role. This enables me to see everyone who's got that marketing manager position, which is the one that was just requested I open up. I can see my current employees, how well they are doing within the top skills that are common for their position. And as I continue on down, I see that some of those employees have fallen off the course of future-proofing themselves. Taking a look at the opportunity to future-proof my workforce here, I can see that we've got a skills gap among our marketing managers today. We're still missing some key information and key skills on things like ChatGPT, configuration, artificial intelligence. And so I know that in order for these gaps to be filled, in order to future-proof my organization, I need to start looking elsewhere outside of the group of employees that we currently have. This is now moving me into our move feature or move section of my ERM. As you can view here, within our organization, there are no employees that have been currently called out by their managers as ready to move into a potential successor for this role. We have a lot of employees that are targeting this role in the future, working towards that goal and aligning themselves in upskilling and becoming ready for these positions. But today, none of those managers have deemed any of our employees ready to take that next step in becoming a marketing manager. This leads me to believe that we might be ready to look externally to hire for this position. And I can even gain some insight into what that might look like utilizing the hire section here. This information is provided to me based on market data as well as a focus on our current CRM that our recruiting team is using on a regular basis. I've got 97 candidates that are a really good fit for this job, and 38 of those candidates have those critical skills that we're looking for. When I drop down and I take a look at all of the skills required for these positions and continuing to future-proof my workforce, I've got a lot better results here than I do with my own team, meaning that if I can find a marketing manager and pull them into our organization that already has experience in these skills we're seeing in the marketplace and as an organization we'd like to have, they can likely help move our current employees forward, giving them access to information and experience that they have with these skills that are newer to the marketplace. After going through these 3 sections, I'm convinced that at this point, we need to open up a requisition. So I'm going to send that over to my top recruiter so that they can go ahead and find a new role. What we just saw the HR business partner go through was review the current landscape of our employees, where our marketing managers are at, and what skills they need to continue to work on in order to be prepared for what the future of their role looks like. We saw lots of potential within our organization for employees that would like to move into a marketing manager role, but just aren't ready today. So we know from the future of our organization, we're already gaining some traction and having the future marketing managers ready for an open position. But as of today, as we determined, there's a lot of external candidates who might be a really good fit for these positions. They already possess the skills we're looking at to future-proof our organization, so we're going to go ahead and open that role. At this point, we'll take a step in the journey to view what it's like to be a recruiter who just received that open requisition from the HR business partner. As a recruiter, now that I've received that information from my HR business partner, I have to open that requisition. We haven't had a marketing manager position open in a while, so I'm actually going to use X Plus, my trusty co-pilot here, that will allow me to utilize this information and create a job description for that marketing manager. I can ask X Plus to create that job description based on all of the marketing data that we've seen within that ERM, all of the skills that we're looking for, as well as historical information for our organization. What do we typically look for in a marketing manager? And all of the things that the Phenom system knows about our business because we've been working within it for some time now. Taking a look and viewing what that job description looks like, it includes all of those skills my HRBP was requesting that I include here, makes it really easy for me to copy that to the clipboard and open that requisition. Now that that requisition is open, I'd like to take some time to start sourcing candidates into the role. My first step in that journey is utilizing, again, artificial intelligence to help me determine which candidates are the best fit for this position. Because that job description has been curated by X Plus, I have the opportunity to actually select matching criteria. This matching criteria will take all of the information that's provided within that job description and match it with open skills and information that we need in order to determine who's the best fit for this job. The system automatically pulls in all of the selected skills that I'm looking for within that marketing manager position. I can set skills as a top skill. I even have the opportunity to set a job location radius. Whether that's remote work and needs to be within the country, it's not relevant, that person can be anywhere in the world, or for some of those positions in which we're asking people to come back into the office, up to 25 miles or 50 miles, depending on what that distance looks like. A sliding scale of years of experience to ensure that that person has all of the specifications that we're looking for as we're looking to hire that new marketing manager. Once I fix that matching criteria, I've got a couple other steps in my journey to help to source talent into this job. Thinking about marketing managers, I've got 3 different areas that I'd like to start to utilize, all within the Phenom ecosystem. The first is taking that fit scoring and the matching criteria that we just created and utilizing that within AI discovery. What AI discovery does for me on a regular basis and my team is allows us to start to look at candidates that exist within the Phenom platform but aren't currently associated with this job. It takes a look at all of that matching criteria that we just curated and finds the best fit candidates for that position. I even get to see a breakdown as to why these candidates might be a really good fit for that role. Once I've gone through the process of determining that I'd like to add these candidates to the open marketing manager position that we have, I can grab that role, add the candidate to the position, and X Plus again is inviting me to start to make some determinations from here. I don't have to write an email curating and asking this person if maybe they'd like to apply for this job. X Plus and the Phenom system does that automatically for me, and I can then send that email out to wherever that candidate might best be. Now that we've sent that out to all of the potential leads that might be a good fit for that position, we can start to utilize, or I can start to utilize, my secondary recruiting team, my employees. So because I know that this is a really high priority role, I then take a look at all of the employees I have within the CRM and get ready to send them a campaign. Now we do this fairly often, asking our employees for referrals, so I already have a template created. I simply pull that marketing manager job in and get ready to send that to that list of all of our employees. So the third step in that journey is coming back to intelligent sourcing. Intelligent sourcing is something that I have access to within the Phenom platform that gives me access to Phenom's database of talent. All of these candidates are now specifically curated based on all the criteria we've already given to the system. So I can come in here and I know that the filters that are already associated with that marketing manager role are the ones that we put into that fit score just a few moments ago. Taking a look at the location, the job titles, the skills that are associated with that role, I now have a list of 8,000 candidates that meet the minimum criteria. From here, I can then go in, Add those extra skills that my HRBP and I have been talking about. Add companies that we like to hire for, maybe specific years of experience or otherwise to continue to drill this list down to find the best fit candidates for this position. Now that I've had the opportunity to use Phenom to source talent in 3 different ways, my next phase in this journey is understanding the opportunity to be ready for those candidates. Once we've gotten to the point where we'd like to interview these candidates, what's it going to look like? We haven't had a marketing manager position open in a while. So I can come into the system and start to create an interview guide asking the system to take some steps in that process. Going ahead and either creating a marketing manager interview guide from scratch with questions that maybe I have in my head or I find on Google, or of course, I can continue to use that generative AI. I can use a marketing manager position that's open, the position that we opened up, and then utilize all the information there to start to generate questions. Here are questions that we typically see. I can quickly add them to the interview guide or rephrase any of these questions. What this enables my team to do is not only to be able to complete that recruiter phone screen, but as we think about what this process looks like down the line, our hiring managers, who also haven't had to hire anyone in a marketing manager role in a while, are now equipped with information and questions that they can ask that help them to find the best fit candidates for these roles. We've talked a lot about skills, right? Of course, it's Skills Day. What else would we be talking about? But when we're asking these questions and when we ask the artificial intelligence to create these questions, you're curating an interview guide for everyone to use that helps your team and your organization to make those hires based on skills. And that's what we're all here to do today. Now that we've gone through the full recruiter process, right? Starting at the beginning, allowing that recruiter to use X Plus to curate a job description complete with those new skills that the HRBP requested, using matching criteria to find candidates that are a good fit for those roles, whether that's through the intelligent sourcing piece or leads that already exist in the CRM, curating that experience for down the line so that we're ensuring we're making skills-based decisions when hiring, and finally sending out that employee email, asking our employees to go through the process of referring their friends. At this point in the journey, we're going to move over to that third person that's involved in this process, our employees. So as an employee at Phenom, I've just received that email that was sent out. You can see the branding here, all of the fonts, the colors, but really the important piece is asking me to refer my friend for that marketing manager position. Once I have the opportunity to do that, I can very easily go through the process of referring my friend for this role. If it's someone I've referred to a job before, I can easily input their information, or I can upload a resume to parse all of the information that we might be looking for. The secondary piece of this is asking me how I know my friend Amy. Did she reach out to me on a social network because she really wants to work at Phenom, is really excited about Skills Day and wants to get in here? Or is it a professional relationship, someone I worked with before? Maybe it's personal. She's a friend. She's looking for a new job. Whatever the case may be, the questions that we're asking here are really for a recruiting team. This gives them insight into who Amy is, the type of role she might be looking for, and why she'd be interested in a position like this. As an employee, I can offer my own little information here as well. Hey, Amy, here's a great opportunity. I think this might interest you, and I can go ahead and send a referral to her. One of the great pieces of information that Phenom is able to provide to me when I'm taking a look at those referrals is the opportunity for me to always track my referrals. I can see that Amy has been referred to that position. We're waiting for her to then apply to that role and move forward in the process. As Amy continues to move forward, I can see exactly where she is in that process. If my friend has forgotten to complete that application, I can always send out a reminder to see what that might look like. And finally, in addition to referring our friends to these roles, we always have the opportunity to utilize Phenom's fit scoring, and candidate matching to match those referrals to current open positions. If that marketing manager isn't the right fit or the right timing for Amy in this journey, anytime those roles open up, we'll see them match to Amy. From the employee perspective, we just walked through receiving that referral, going through the process of referring our friend, and tracking her throughout that process. As we think about all of the things that we've gone over in talking about futuristic hiring today, this is really how we can all work together as an organization. Our HR business partners or our talent management team, our recruiters, and our employees to ensure that we're prepared to hire for those skills that are going to exist for future open roles. Flying cars not included. You've heard today from quite a few of us how all of these things work and seen some really compelling use cases. But now the hard part, getting started.
We know what it's like in our personal lives to change, to grow. We've all gone through changes, both as individuals and in our families, communities, and organizations. And yet, with all that change considered, that doesn't make the future any less daunting. At the foundational level, research rooted in psychology and anthropology tells us that in order to change, we need to have motivation, readiness, and support from those around us. Research in organizational dynamics tells us the same. When we're thinking about using skills in the workplace, the fantastic news is we're already doing this. We use this language, we know these concepts. We generally know what our colleagues are skilled in and maybe what they're not skilled in. Hopefully we have the confidence, self-awareness, and the psychological safety to acknowledge where we are skilled and where we are not. So how do you take what you've already been doing and scale it, automate it, and use it to solve some of your largest talent acquisition, growth, and retention problems? Luckily, we've been doing this at Phenom for more than 12 years, for over 600 global organizations of all sizes. So we can help. But the question is, do you and your organization have the motivation, readiness, and a support system to make this happen? If yes, here's how we can tackle change management together. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, says, "You don't rise to your greatest goals, you fall to your weakest systems." Our approach is to help you build your goals and your systems. We begin every engagement by understanding the ins and outs of you, your organization, and your current state through stakeholder discussions. This enables us to establish a true partnership in which we deliver personalized recommendations based on our assessment of your organization's maturity. What follows coming out of these kickoff meetings can only be impactful if we take the time to acknowledge what you are looking to achieve and get alignment on what it will take to get you there. Okay. Now we know your company's state of maturity, and we've met with all the stakeholders to get their input. And big surprise, not everyone has the same level of enthusiasm you have to roll out your skill strategy. We know it takes time to get everyone on board, which is why we recommend you walk before you run, and actually crawl before you walk. What does this mean for executing your strategy? Well, it means starting with small wins. Who are the champions in your organization who see things your way? What department leaders could you pilot with? A holistic approach to skills is recommended, but you don't need to do it all at once. You could start with the talent acquisition team, rolling out the effective use of skills for finding best fit candidates for their open roles. You could identify a department in the organization that has a leader that will champion career movement and talent development. Start by rolling out just for that department, pilot the experience, assess the results, and then fine-tune for wider enablement. Choose a solution that gives you the flexibility to light up only parts of your organization and then scale appropriately as you begin to get traction. Data is central to the skills conversation, but there is still the fundamental problem of how to make that data actionable. That's where user experience comes in. You want people to engage with the technology, so the technology has to engage with people. Some software packages take the approach of a uniform experience for all, with permissions driving who sees what. A better approach is human-centered design, the idea that the user is central to the entire product design process. As we discussed in earlier sessions, the application of skills is relevant across the talent lifecycle, which means a variety of users will be interacting with your systems, from candidates to recruiters to employees to HR business partners to managers, and likely even executives to track progress. Every one of these users has slightly different needs. And so everyone needs to have their own experience to maximize not only the value they perceive, but also the engagement you benefit from. Using the example of employee skills profiles, the talent marketplace needs to make it very easy for employees to add skills. Furthermore, they should be able to tell where they have skills gaps for their current role, where they might have gaps for a future role, and ways to close those gaps. Employee relationship management provides HR business partners with an organizational view, allowing them to quickly drill into meaningful gaps and create either an upskilling or pipelining plan. The manager experience enables people managers to focus on their team, quickly identifying the skills makeup of their direct reports and personalizing development. The thoughtful design of the user experience can make all the difference in adoption throughout your company. This is especially important to bring to conversations with your HRIS or HRIT team. Managing more vendors may seem to add complication and potentially cost, but the reality is lack of adoption of any technology is the true cost. Even if you're evaluating the free solution that's already included with one of your other systems, a lack of usage means incurring cost of attrition later on. The conversation about experience is not meant to distract from the conversation about data, nor is it meant to convey that a good experience can make up for bad data. There is not one silver bullet that will make implementing a skills-forward strategy easy, but we can help give you the right ammo from the trials and tribulations of 12 years and over 600 customers to ease the journey. Here are a few suggestions. Stop worrying about your data. It is what it is, and you should be looking for the right partner that can handle the data you have, augment it with their own data, and normalize appropriately. Don't worry about organizing it, standardizing it, none of it. If you have to wash your dishes before you put them in the dishwasher, you picked the wrong partner for your dish cleaning journey. Lay out a comprehensive communication plan that introduces the target user group to the change, outlines the reason for the change, and details specific milestones. These should cover pre-launch and extend well past go-live into the 30, 60, 90 plan, then taper off after that. If you need templates for content and frequency, we can help. Schedule Ask Me Anything sessions with user groups and/or leaders to encourage free flow of questions and concerns. Use the on-demand resources from your technology provider or implementation partner to supplement the live sessions and for broader reach. Address the elephant in the room with your leaders. This can vary by company, but some of the heavy hitters are talent poaching, giving rise to employee concern about their managers seeing their activity, external versus internal hiring, or introduction of bias into the hiring process. Be transparent, because ultimately, that's what the goal of this system is, transparency. Everyone needs to understand that the responsible use of AI has the potential to help with all talent activities. The visibility across the organization shouldn't be seen as poaching, but rather equipping managers in their time of need whenever it might pop up. And that it's everyone's responsibility to foster employee career pathing and progression. We can also help with talk tracks for some of these elephants so that you can work on winning over the naysayers. And, of course, at the end of the day, you need to be able to quantify impact on the bottom line. Employee satisfaction is great, but what does that mean in dollars and cents? The cost of turnover is a good starting point. When an employee leaves an organization, it can cost up to 2 times their salary to replace them. This is an easy calculation that you can use to justify a strategy that increases retention. And for the talent that you are retaining, the goal is to maximize the employee lifetime value, using a talent management strategy that minimizes the cost of upskilling and moving employees into critical positions. Cost of hire is also tried and true for measuring the impact of a talent solution, and leveraging skills effectively will drive better fit candidates through the hiring process faster, decreasing the time and cost to hire. Better fit candidates will also drive toward better quality of hire, which ties back to employee lifetime value. For all of these metrics, establish a baseline on the way in. If you haven't been measuring these regularly, now's the time, as they will really drive what makes sense from an investment perspective and how you properly report on ROI. As Cliff mentioned earlier, skills are the currency of work, and like all currency, if you have it, you shouldn't wait to invest. Please use these tips to get started, and of course, reach out to us at Phenom if you could use our expertise along the way.
You heard from the experts who help some of the largest companies in the world hire faster, develop better, and retain talent longer. I hope you're able to envision real-world practical use cases for applying a skills-forward approach in your specific environment and in your company. And after hundreds of skills conversations here at Phenom, we learned one really big thing.
Yeah, and that is context is king. So companies want to see their own skills, their own roles, their own progressions, and that's really when everything kind of clicks into place. And as a result of that, we are offering a complimentary skills consultation for anyone who attended Skills Day. We will meet with you and we will show you your data, show you your skills, show you your roles, and show you your progressions. Just a little taste, but something that really will help it, I think, drive home the points that we've been making today and help you realize how you can move forward very quickly.
Yeah, so part of the challenge most companies have is, since they can't see their own data, they can't picture how it truly applies in their environment. And what you found by being part of these kind of skill snapshots, if you will, is once they see it, they start to get excited and they really understand all the concepts that we talked about today. Yeah. So, I mean, please take us up on the offer. I'm sure we'll follow up via email. You can go right to our website and book a meeting with us. We'd love to engage with you and give you a look at your own skills and in your own environment.
We got the data. Let us show it to you.
That's it. From everyone here at Phenom, we really appreciate you being part of the industry in the world's first Skills Day.